It's too much fun to be interviewing somebody I think every other girl has had a crush on, because this man pictures so well. His life has been picture perfect. And then you see him talking about his mental health, which a lot of people shy away from. And I don't know if it's ironic or what, but the one person who made it really big in the country is probably one of his exes. So I'm going to get to that later. But Sid, thank you for bringing something up that I think the world is facing. And as we move on, probably would face even more so. And I'm hoping at the end of this conversation, we can throw some light on that. So, yeah, hi, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
To begin with, I just love the mention of the Dementors because I'm a huge Harry Potter. I'm thinking, is he a Potterhead? And considering you live around probably very close by to from where it's been shot, and been all downloaded in her head, I'm thinking in my head how much of a book doper you are, because if somebody reads, they pretty much lose themselves from the real world. How much does Sid read? I want to ask you this question, considering we're talking about your book.
So I read, I'm obviously a big Harry Potter fan, all the Harry Potter films. I just watched like back to back not too long ago. But I'm more of a fan of the books. Big fan of Dan Brown's work. I love it. I always look for his sort of newest release. And then recently my reading's been a lot more kind of in the spiritual space and more sort of in the, personal growth space. The Eckhart Tolle's and the Malcolm Gladwell, that sort of stuff, which is great. And, but I also read a lot of scripts, right? And scripts are like stories, which is, again, you just get completely lost in them. But I do think I probably do need to start reading a bit more fiction again. It is enjoyable.
When did this start? Because I think a relationship with books is something that starts really earlier on in your life. Was it something that you picked up much later?
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't really enjoy reading as a kid. Like, I'd buy books because I thought they looked cool. And then when it came to actually read, like Goosebumps. Do you have Goosebumps in India? They were about like kids' scary stories and stuff. Then you had like Enid Blyton and all of that, like the famous five and all of that. And I used to get the books. And then actually when I had to sit down to read them, I was like, this is boring. I wasn't a big reader growing up, no.
So what did
the only thing I read multiple times was the Odyssey. That's because I studied it at school so much. And then it just kind of, I don't know when I started really reading, probably around the age of 20, 22.
Oh my God, that's really late. I think it's also because one of the reasons a lot of us, even I'm a poor reader, but I think I was very drawn to anything mystical. So for me, it was Linda Goodman, or I was going to like Nancy Drew and Famous Five and Hardy Boys and that kind of stuff. But to just understand your psyche, to start reading that late and then writing a book is very quick succession. What is it about books that you feel would be able to tell your story better in the digital world? You could, and you have been making blogs, and I'm loving those, but something prompted you to write a book. And is it to add that author title to Sid? What is it?
I mean, I just feel like it was kind of like the next progression. Like I wanted to do whatever I could to continue shining a light on mental health. And consider this series was doing very well, and that was, I'm honestly more of a people person. Like I like interacting with people, I hate doing interviews over email and stuff like that, right? I want to talk to people. I want to interact, and doing the Consider This series was great because I got to do my thing on camera and feel like I was talking to people. So the book was definitely a different experience. But I thought it probably was the next progression on from the Consider This series. I just felt like also with a book that I could go, like there was no time constraints, limits, like with the episodes, like you go in as much as you want and you can go as deep as you want. without, whereas if you're doing things on a visual medium, like as we know, like attention span is short, where it's like they say don't make videos. I think the sweet spot is something like 3 to 7 minutes or something. And even that now, right? Even now, like it's like TikTok is like what, 15-second videos. So it's like everyone's attention span is getting shorter and shorter. Whereas at least with a book, there was none of those shackles, which is like, this needs to be a certain time, this or that. You just do it.
Also, I think writing is something that you do from a very sacred space because you're just like, to yourself and to your means. Just wanting to understand that process from you. How did you go about it? Was there a certain time Eureka would strike? Or...
Yeah. So my process was probably a little bit, and I guess everyone's is different, but I'm a very like visual person. Like I'm a very like, so I started typing it and I got about 10,000 words in and I was like, this just isn't working for me. So I was like, I knew what I wanted to say for each chapter and each thing. I had like bullet points. So I said, well, why not do it like I'm interviewing, right? So I would speak it. So I just speak it to myself being like, and I went through this and I have a conversation and I transcribe the conversations and then type it and format it into the work, and then do it like that because I'm a more speaking person. So for me, the writing process was speaking it out loud as opposed to typing it in my head. And I'm also someone that I get inspiration. Like I get up, I have lucid dreams. I'll get up at 3 a.m. with an idea and write something down. I'll be out, like my notes app on my phone is just full of ideas. Like whenever I get something. So a lot of the writing came to me where I'd be like, oh my gosh, remember that was something that I went through in the divorce. Write that down, explore it later. And then I'd talk about it through my head again and record it and write it.
It's so strange. The only other time I think I remember something like this was for an epic book, which was the autobiography of a yogi. And I saw that film recently and he was saying everything about his life and then he had somebody who write it down for him. Here you pretty much doubled up or tripled up for being the guy who's speaking, recording his...
Well, the difference is that a lot of people get ghostwriters, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't. Now, the process with a ghostwriter is basically going through hours of interviews.
Yeah.
I almost did that process with myself. So I kind of interviewed me and then wrote it.
That's insane. What is, according to you, the most unique path of your mental health journey? Because I'm 100% sure you've referred to or you've watched someone's journey out there. And there's so many people who, come out and share theirs now. I know I did make a passing comment about, your ex-girlfriend, but that's also because she made it a very big deal and she's got an entire organization servicing this now. So what inspires you to come out and what were your reference points at the time that you were going through this?
I think it was just seeing that it's more, I guess, seeing the work that more people are doing to shine a light on it. And I think that was my reference point, was like, okay, the real way to continue helping people is to continue talking about it. Yeah. And that's what I thought. I thought, the main thing is that what we really need to do at this point is that, the stigma around mental health may not end in our lifetime. It might take till the next generation, 50, 60, 70 years time for it to really be part of mainstream. Hopefully it doesn't take that long, but change has to start somewhere. And the best way to start change is to start the conversation around it. So I always felt like, look, I'm going to do whatever I can to promote the conversation.
Yeah.
And to show that it's a conversation that not only do we need to be having, but we can have.
And was there somebody who inspired you in this process? Like, when you saw someone, for instance, when we were watching The Crown, what a series. I don't know if you have already.
Yeah, I've seen it.
You cannot get over what Diana had to face in those days, especially from her entire Keith and Kin.
Well, I mean, yes. And I'm happy that you hit that point because, first of all, fun fact for you. You watched The Crown?
Yeah, loved it.
You saw Princess Margaret's Palace, Kensington?
Yeah.
Where Helena Bonham Carter is. That's my old school. That's where I went to school.
Oh my God.
So, so it literally was like being at Hogwarts, honestly, at school. So that's a little fun fact. But you mentioned The Crown. Now, this is something that I think is very important. You mentioned the Diana thing, but let's take it a step. Now, Prince Harry is a couple of years older than me. I don't know him, but I know friends who know him, right? Because he grew up in the same sort of area as me, went to a school nearby me. So we played sports against, our schools played against each other.
Yeah.
And I remember there was a huge scandal because he got caught smoking marijuana when he was at Eton. And it was like, okay, I'm not condoning that behavior, but he was a 15, 16-year-old kid. Yeah. Kids do that stuff, right? But then it's national news because he's a prince, this and that. And to have to deal with that pressure, and then people see him later in life wanting to get away from the media, this and that. Now he's doing a lot of mental health work, and you get, like he and Meghan are in the news a lot, and people are going off at him and saying that his mental health, what is he doing, this and that, right? Let's not forget the fact that he is a prince, forget the fact that he is this or that, whatever. He is still a boy who at the age of 11 had to follow his mother's coffin in front of the world. If that doesn't leave a mental effect on you, I don't know what does. And I'm so glad you referenced The Crown, because I don't think people see that. They see the prince. Yeah. This is a child whose mother died at 11 years old and had to follow her coffin. You see the pictures of it. Following the coffin of your mother in front of the world's media. Like, how could that not leave a mental effect on you?
Absolutely. Also, because I think what you said so beautifully, it's so easy for people to comment and say what they want and how they want to say it, and never stop, because it just feeds their imagination or their egos, or, I don't know. We're so quick to opinionate when we don't want to be judged, and we're so quick to judge others. So if I had to ask you, that you've pretty much been the prince of good times, what were those various moments in your career, in your journey, where you thought you were being judged? And I'm talking about way before there were trollers and way before there was the digital media. What is it that left that kind of dent in you? I'm sure there's reference of that in the book.
Yeah, and I talk about it in the book. But I mean, again, the funny thing is that everything is done with hindsight, because probably at the time I wasn't aware of it. Yeah. But it's like, even growing up at school, like, you'd have teachers passing comments, or your family's this, your family's that, even though, I mean, we had like Arab princes at my school. So it's not, and it's just that, I guess, people don't realize the effect they can have with a comment. And I've said this in the book. I was like, most comments are made to children as passing remarks. The fact that I'm 34 years old and write about these comments in the book shows that things are not always throwaway remarks. And I think it was just, being judged from a young age because of what happened to be born into a certain family. And it was like, okay, what am I meant to do about that? Like,
and did you try harder to fit in? I've been through something like that, and I've had the great opportunity to speak twice at TEDx and say that I belong to a joint family of 5 kids, and it's not easy when everyone around you is like, scholastic and an academic achiever, and you just don't know what you want to do with your life, and you're not the marks girl, right? What was the struggle for you?
I think the main struggle for me was, like, as I write in the book, when I was in India, which is like, I want my own identity. I don't want to be just known as someone's son.
Yeah.
Like, even like now, like, Vijay Mallya's son wrote a book where it's like, well, no, Sidhartha Mallya wrote a book, and it's a book that's out to help people. And I just hope that this gives me that platform now to be kind of respected as my own person.
This is the question where I kind of strayed. Was there an effort that Sid made through his journey, through his life, to kind of want to say that I'm Sid Mallya and I'm not Mr. Vijay Mallya's son? Yeah,
I mean, I did it when I was in India 12 years ago, but as I said, as I write in the book, it came across as like arrogance. It's like defiance. I am me. Like, how we do that, right? We all want to prove a point. When you get to that point of comfort, which is like, actually, I don't have anything to prove to anyone but myself, then it comes from a place of truth, and you get this book.
And so I think in that sense, to kind of channelize all that pent up energy or negativity is so beautiful, right? Sid, it's funny I ask you this, don't hold me, don't judge me, but you're the prince of good times. This is these bottles young people are picking up and enjoying and having a great time when you're celebrating with friends, when you have weekends, and when you're holidaying. And then we hear that Sid Mallya has quit drinking. Doesn't that show badly on the brand that you kind of, belong to?
No, I mean, it's not about that, right? Is it? It's about each to their own. And I think the message there is you got to do what works for you, not what society thinks you should do.
Or probably the business that you own. It's
or whatever. You've got to be your own person, right? You've got one life, you've got this lifetime to live, and you've got to make your own path and do what works for you.
Just curious to know, did that have a negative impact, or what was your reason to do that? Like, was it because you thought that it wasn't giving you a clear space in the head? Or
yeah, I mean, whether I'd have 1 drink or 10 drinks, the next morning I'd get morbid levels of anxiety. I didn't realize at the time it was linked to the OCD I had, and eventually it got to a point where I was like, this is just, it's not fun anymore, like feeling this way the next morning. So I was like, I'm not going to say I'm going to stop forever. I'm not going to say that, I'm up to the timeline on this, but right now it doesn't serve me. So until it does, I'm going to knock it on its head.
I think the beautiful thing about your journey is how you've managed to apply yourself pretty much everywhere, from the physical world to now into the mental and being a writer. What has been the most exciting part of this journey so far? The modeling, the acting, what gives you the kicks?
It's like, I keep these, if you can see it with the camera, but like there's a couple of like the GQ award and stuff like that on the shelf there. And why I keep that there is not to show it off, but it's to remind me of a very different life and a very different time in my life, and how we can all change and we can all adapt. And I think by far, and as you said, I've modeled, I've shot GQ covers, I've done this, I've been given Men of the Year awards. Without a doubt, the most fun I have is when I'm on set shooting like a project and I'm around people. That's definitely the most fun. And also doing the Consider This series and now this book as well, because getting responses from people being like, thank you for being open and honest, you've helped me. That's a great feeling. Knowing that you've been able to really contribute to someone else's well-being, that's a far better feeling than any magazine cover is ever going to give you.
The word honest you use is so rare in these days, especially when it's coming from this real space. Who is the most honest celebrity you have ever encountered, who's left an impact on you that you can't get over? Because you've pretty much schmoozed with everyone.
Who's the most honest person?
Yeah.
I don't know if this is honest, but so I'm a huge Sacha Baron Cohen fan. Like, he's one of my big inspirations. And I met him at an event. I spoke to him for like 5 minutes, shook his hand, and there's just an aura about him. And, this is a guy who's played Ali G and Borat and all these wild characters, but as a human being, he was just an enigma. And what I realized about this guy is he was probably the most honest man. You know why? He was so comfortable with him and at peace with himself that you could feel that. And I was like, he's an inspiration to everything I do. Like, he's my sort of artistic inspiration. And it's just that I think that's what it is. I think honesty comes from being honest with yourself. Real honesty comes from being comfortable with who you are. And this was just a guy who was so comfortable with himself.
How do you know you are depressed? Because I think there is an element of depression in all of us, and there is an element of madness in all of us.
I think we're everything, aren't we?
Yeah.
We're everything and we're nothing. I wouldn't say we're nothing. We're everything. We have the capacity to feel everything.
And
I think depression, though, I think, as I say in the book, you can be depressed without even knowing it. And that's something that I experienced. I didn't even know this was a thing, because I think that, we can have preconceived notions of how something should look. And you're like, well, I can still get up in the morning. I can still function. I can't be depressed. And when you realize that, listen, you can still be it's like being a functioning alcoholic, right? You could. So I think the important thing is to get away of frameworks of what we think something should look like. Because if we think that, wow, you're only depressed if this happens, or you're only an alcoholic if this happens, then we can actually miss the problem.
Yeah.
And I think that when it comes to depression, this is, again, I asked my therapist this because I did ask the exact same question. And she said, usually, you know, there's signs and symptoms you can look out for, but usually if it's a continuous thing that like everyone goes through low, there's a difference between having a low period and being depressed. But if it goes on for like more than a couple of weeks, then it's probably worth checking out.
And what are the signs? Like, are you not looking into people's eyes? Are you not getting out of your bed? What are the signs?
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, like I think I wrote some of them in the book, which is like I had a continuous low mood or sadness. I had body aches. I just felt empty. It felt like there was no joy. The Dementor,
That's a very strong experience, if I may say so. It's almost like it's metaphysically like there was something behind of you, and
it was literally like that. Yeah, and I think that there's so many different symptoms you can I mean, a lot of people can't sleep. Some people sleep too much. Some people don't eat. Some people eat too. There's just a number, and I would say to anyone who's watching this, like, do your research.
Yeah.
There's enough info on all of this stuff out there. Like, go and see it, and only you know what you're going through.
I just want to ask, like, for instance, you love watching films. You are such a film buff. You love your world of cinema. Does it also take you away from things you love? Like, did you stop watching series and did you stop watching movies? What happened in that front? Because these are things that take you away from momentarily from your mind, right? Like from your mental state.
During the time, I don't know. I know for me, like, I lost a lot of, like, I didn't want to see anyone.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't want to see my friends or anything. I was like very irritable, and like it was almost like being in front of people was a burden.
Yeah.
I talk about it in the book. Like, I was at a wedding in Ibiza, with all my friends. It was basically everything was set up to be an amazing time, right? You're young, you're in Ibiza, in an Indian wedding. There's booze flowing. There's everything you want. Your friends are there, party atmosphere, and I was just like inside. I was like, oh, I'm dying right here. Like, I feel like I'm being crushed. So as I said, it can show up in different ways. For me, it was like, I do not want to be around people.
And you, somebody who's seen it all, and I'm thinking here, like, somebody told me something bizarre, and I don't know how much you agree with it. The person told me that being depressed is probably like a luxury for the rich. And I think it has nothing to do with class. It has nothing to do with your socioeconomics.
It's a very dangerous way to look at it, because for two reasons. One, because if you're not from a high socioeconomic background, you can feel like, well, depression, I don't have the means, therapy costs money, medicine costs money. Well, I don't have those means. There's no hope for me. And you're right, medicine and therapy does cost money, but there's 1,000 other ways to get help. Most of them at very little or no cost.
Yeah.
Right? So either if that belief can stop people feeling like there's any hope for them, but also if you are from someone from a high socioeconomic background, it can make you feel, well, I don't have a right to feel like this, like I did. And it makes you feel guilty about it.
Yeah.
And so either way, it's like, you've got to remember, and I write, this is one of the main messages in the book is, where is it? Mental health. No one is immune from suffering issues of mental health. Mental health doesn't discriminate. No one is immune to it. It can affect everyone at all stages of life, regardless of wealth, gender, ethnicity, upbringing, or success. That's one of the main messages I get across in this book, which is like, forget it. Like, I was just telling someone else this just now, like, look at the athletes, Naomi Osaka, Simone Biles. Naomi Osaka was the highest paid female athlete in the world last year. Number 1 tennis player, Grand Slam champion, pulled out of events because of her mental health. So to think that, oh my gosh, she can't suffer because she's got the world at her feet. No, everyone is susceptible to this stuff.
But they are being judged, let me tell you. And they're like,
of course they are. But that's an innate part of society, that is.
Okay, so here's the question. Do you feel that the depression did set in because you had too much, too young, or you just had it all and you just didn't know what
no, but like, I think you gotta remember that, okay, I had a lot, right? I also went to boarding school when I was 10. That is not old by any stretch of the imagination, right? You're living away from home at the age of 10. And so I was sheltered from a lot of that. Of course, I had a lot growing up. Of course, there was these things. And okay, what I think it probably did to me was make me at least feel like I was one of those people that didn't have a right to be, that the belief was instilled in me, or you had things from a material point of view. You can't suffer from a mental point of view. And that probably left some sort of that in me, that belief.
You said you also did read a lot of spiritual books. Now, I'm a little curious here. Is dad an influence for that, or mom's an influence for that, or it's your own,
It's my own. In fact, I got my mom on it. Like, I started doing transcendental meditation like 2017, so 4 years ago. Wow. And my mom was never into any of this stuff. And then she went and did the transcendental meditation course. So she now does it. So it's great.
That's fantastic. Who are the people who guided, if I may ask for my own personal...
Who what, sorry?
I would love to go and see who these people are, who you kind of took the tutelage under, and probably read them up, because I'm majorly kind of into...
So I think this is something you gotta be careful of, though. I read a lot of different books. Like, I've read Spirit Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle, Untethered Soul, Michael Singer.
Love Eckhart.
Conversations with God, Neil Donald Walsh was probably the most influential. Blink, Malcolm Gladwell. And what I realized is that for a long time, like, I was trying to follow all these books to a T. And then I realized that, listen, these are people written by other people. Like, you got to find the best bits that work for you and make your own process. Like, I end the book by saying that something I learned during my own journey was, you've got to
make your own process.
Modify it, make it fit your life. After all, this is your journey, no one else's, so make it work for you.
Yeah. Is that Ganpati behind you? I'm just very curious about your background.
Yeah, that is there, yeah.
Oh, he's so cute. And I want to see the superheroes painting. So cool.
You want to see them?
Yeah.
Let me see if I can
so cool.
Take this around. So we got this one. This one here above my desk, which is The Last Supper.
Oh yeah, this one's a cool one. Yeah.
With Superman and...
I've seen this one, yeah. But it is so cool.
And this one's that famous one from, like, I think they're sitting on, like, Brooklyn. It was like all the people that's been replaced.
I don't know this one. Is it a classic? Oh my God, this is...
Yeah, it's a classic of, like, I think it's Workers. And then this one is the album cover of the Beatles of them crossing.
Oh, this one I've seen as well. Oh my God.
Which has been replaced by...
Oh my God, you love the superheroes. Which one's your favorite? Or all of them are?
So that's them.
Okay, I said, are they all your favorite? Or do you have one superhero?
I like this Last Supper one.
No, I'm talking about one superhero.
Superhero. Oh, yeah. Which superhero do I like?
Yeah.
I like them. I like Spider-Man.
Why? I'm just curious.
I don't know. Like you can climb up walls and everything. Like, it's like I love Iron Man, but it's like Iron Man was, until they did the films on Iron Man, he was like a background superhero. Who was Iron Man? Like, until Tony Stark, we were like, really? I think Iron Man's pretty cool. I like... Who else is there? Yeah. No, I like Spider-Man.
Okay, so there are a lot of people who say, go back to your favorite song that makes you happy.
Yeah.
Do a dance, do something positive. I know everywhere that I see, and I can see why, for a numerologist, number 7 is great for traveling. So you love traveling. What is the happy thing Sid does to get himself out of that sticky place where he thinks, okay, I think I'm sinking, I need to do something?
Play with the dog. I go running a lot. Anything outdoors, I think, like just going for a wander around, just connecting with nature, acting, going to my acting studio and performing, like doing stuff like that. That brings a lot of joy to me.
And can I see your tattoo? I'm just trying to make this.
Yeah. We got this one here.
Whoa. That's a lot of Roman numbers. You'll have to translate that for me.
That's my date of birth in Roman numerals. I think it's kind of like a reminder of, like, that's when it started. You don't know when it's going to end, so make the most of it. Then we got, I don't know if you can see this one here. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, which is a line from the poet If.
Wow.
And then we've got coordinates here of where my mum lives, where I grew up with her.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love
And then my favorite, which is, let's see this. which is a play and a pause symbol.
Oh, yeah.
Which is, because I'm a child at heart, like I want to keep playing, but the pause symbol is also like, just sometimes take it a bit easy.
If I had to ask you this lockdown, if the best gift that Sid got in this lockdown when he was with his thoughts or with himself, what would it be?
Just getting comfortable with me and, spending that time getting to know me better.
Do you miss
Sounds strange though, doesn't it? Right? It sounds weird that we say that, but most of us, the person we know the least is our own self.
I don't think it sounds strange coming from you, because I think you've lived a very full life in terms of being busy with social commitments and having to give presents here and there and be amongst people all the time. I would think it has been a different kind of luxury for you to be on your own and just not have people around.
Yeah, and I have actually enjoyed it a lot as well. I live on my own. It's just me and my dog. So really lockdown was no kind of different to what we were used to before.
How were you managing your food and everything? What was
we get food, like, I go grocery stores nearby, this and that. That was open, luckily.
And if I had to ask you, this is one of my final few questions. It always intrigues me to know what is true joy or true happiness beyond your work, which I know for you is film, and I know that. But if I had to ask you true joy and true happiness, is it right now sharing with the world what you went through?
Play. No, it's playing. It's being able to bring joy to other people. That's what brings me joy, is bringing other people joy.
I think that's a great point for me to end this. Sid, lots of love and respect.
And
I could go on and on. So kind to answer everything with such heart.
No, of course.
But I think the bigger deal here is, like you said, this is a journey, and we need to break myths here. And we need to stop judging people. It's so funny you brought this whole thing up about how what you were tagged as in your school hasn't left some part of you. It stays in your DNA. I just wish we knew how powerful words are and what kind of what kind of an impact.
And I say that again, I keep talking about the book, but I do mention that, and then I'm like, don't be careful what you say to kids. Like they remember things.
That's beautiful. And with that, lots of love. Hope to see you in India sometime.
Absolutely.
And in person.
Yes.
Until then, your book will keep us closer to you. Thank you.
For sure. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Radio City.